This is The Vision, and I'm your host today, Reverend Sandra Whitley. And we have a wonderful program set for you. And we have guests today with us, and our guests are local natives of Chelsea that have aspired to key positions as women in this community. And so we have with us our guest, City Councilor Paula Barton. Yes, we're so glad to have you, Paula.
Thank you.
And also our school committee member, Rosemary Carlisle.
Oh.
So we're glad to have you today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Reverend.
Yes, and so with that, we want us to begin our show with telling us a little bit about yourself. You were born and you were raised here, the school you went to. Just tell us your parents, your siblings, everything you can, just to give us an idea about who we have on our show today.
Thank you. I was born, I always start with this because it's really funny. I was born at the Chelsea Memorial Hospital,
Okay.
which is 100 Bellingham Street, and it's been downhill ever since because I live at the bottom of the hill now. So I was born at the top, and now I live at the bottom. So that's kind of funny.
Right.
When I went to school at the Shirtlift School in Chelsea, which is now the Early Learning Center. And my parents had a dry cleaning business diagonally across the street from the school. So whenever the assistant principal called me in the office, I always used to think I was in trouble. Although I was a good kid and I never really got in trouble, but it basically was to give me her dry cleaning to take to my parents' store so she didn't have to walk across the street herself. She trusted me to take the garments across the street. But no matter what, every time I thought I was in there for doing something wrong. After that, I proceeded to go to Chelsea High School. And when I went to Chelsea High School, I was in one of the top classes at the high school. And I studied the college course. And from there, I went to Salem State College. And I went to Salem State for both my bachelor's and my master's degree. And I took several courses in between at various locations. I went to Ohio State for a summer intern CAGS program. I have like a lot of education in that. A lot of those different courses were from different schools once I got my master's degree.
Wonderful, okay. And all your degrees were in education?
Not really. My first degree at Salem State, I started out studying math because that's my love.
Oh, that's right.
And I started studying math, and then I got a minor in education. And when I got my master's in school psychology. And then computers started to become really popular. It just started on the bandwagon. I graduated, I don't want to tell you how old I was, but in the early 70s.
Okay.
And when I was in school, teaching school, everybody was trying to learn computers because that was the wave of the future. So I started taking all different courses, and at that time we learned computer languages. We learned Fortran and BASIC, and computers were still reel-to-reel.
Okay.
There were no little machines. And then when they did, I developed a program where I taught the kids how to program the little machines, and we taught like that. So they developed into computers, which was relevant at the time.
So tell us about your, are you the only child?
I have one brother,
Okay.
but he's 7.5 years older than me.
Okay.
So in many ways, I felt like I was an only child because he got married very young. He got married at 21, and I was like 13 years old when he got married. And he worked when he was like 15 and 16. So I was maybe 8 or 9. So there was a big separation in the age, and we really weren't that close growing up. Or after he got married, he moved in with his in-laws, and then he went and moved to Washington, D.C. He was in the Coast Guard.
So were you fortunate to have both of your parents all your life, or are they still living?
I had both my parents all my life. They passed within the last 10, 12 years.
Okay.
I was the love of my father's eye, and he was the love of my eye. I meant to bring this up. One of the things I had to do is I had to spend a lot of time working in their business as a child. So starting at age 9 or 10, I used to, after school, go over there, help wait on the customers, help put the clothes in the garment bags, and that's where I learned how to count money at first. I think that's where I first started liking math, and I always had to count back. With the kids today, they don't count back, they use the digital method. And I always counted back the money to the people and waited on the customers. And when I was in college, though, I started to resent that because I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and my mother was sick a lot. And when she ran the front counter while my father did the cleaning and the pressing, and my father would need somebody in the front. And I might have had plans like an art lesson or plans to go somewhere, and last minute I had to go and help my father. But in the end, I know that that developed a stronger bond between us, and that also helped me learn how to give towards others, and I got to know the customers who were mostly Chelsea citizens. I got to know them.
Okay, so well known now throughout your career, but we'll come back to that. So Rosemary, tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, I was brought up on Sagamore Ave, where I still live. I still live in the house that I was brought up in. I have 3 brothers. 2 have passed away, and I have a younger brother who is the pastoral assistant over at the Immaculate Conception in Everett. Rick Randazzo is my brother.
Okay, what's his name?
Rick Randazzo.
Oh, I know your brother. I met
I was going to
him.
say, I bet you knew him.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Because I had told him I was going to be meeting with you today, and he says, oh, I know her.
Okay.
So my brother Rick and I are very close. I'm presently divorced, but I have 3 wonderful children and 5 wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous grandchildren.
Oh, 5 of them. How
Yes.
many are girls?
I have 3 girls, and I have 2 boys.
Okay.
Yeah, my daughter just had a baby a year and a half ago. So I'm very proud of being a grandparent. That's the best thing in anybody's life is first when you're a mother, and then when you become a grandmother.
Yeah.
I went to school here in Chelsea. I started out, I went 8 years at Our Lady of Grace School up on Nichols Street.
Okay.
And then I went on to Carter. Carter School used to be on Forsyth Street.
Okay.
It burnt down. Right now it's an apartment building.
That big
Yeah,
one.
that school burnt down. I was very sad about that. After Carter School, I went on to the high school, where I met all of my friends who I am still friends with today.
Oh my gosh.
So I think being brought up in Chelsea and that kind of heritage brings a lot to a woman. It's a bond that you never forget.
Yes.
Right now, I am not working at the present time, but I've been a career as a receptionist. I like being out in the public. I've been on the school committee for the past, 9 terms. I got elected. To tell you the truth, at the first election, I didn't get elected. I was very devastated. But a friend of mine told me not to give up, and that's why I'm still on the school committee.
Oh, beautiful.
Thanks to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have wonderful lives here, backgrounds. So now let's talk about what your dreams were when you were young. You know, we are always, when we're growing up, the adults, I remember adults would come around, they were like, okay, you know, to the little children, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, most times we know, and sometimes we say what we're going to be, but we've had different thoughts about what we want to be before it finally manifests itself into what we are. So tell us about your dreams and then how that unfolded.
Well, I always had a natural ability for math and science. So I knew that I was going to do something with math and science. And it was understood that I was going to go to college. There was no question that I was going to go to college. I was in the college course.
Why was there no question? Was that your parents' no question? Because I remember
everyone
my parents.
Everyone in my family at this third generation American, everyone had gone, and I was the baby.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so that was a natural
Although
thing
my
for
father used to tease me that I should be a hairdresser because I used to love to play around with people's hair, but it was just a natural thing that because I was the baby and everybody else did, that I would too.
Okay.
So I tried to I actually didn't get in the first place I tried to go either. I wanted to go to a place in Connecticut. I wanted to live away, and I wanted to study like lab technician and science. I didn't get in, or it cost too much money. I don't remember which it was, but I remember for some reason I didn't end up going there, and I ended up going to Salem State. For the first 2 years, I lived away at Salem State, and I had no idea what I was going to be. I just kept taking math courses, and I loved just taking the math courses. And then I reflected earlier that when I started teaching, I found that my style of teaching was a lot like a teacher that I had in Chelsea that a lot of us who are watching this today remember, Alice Sandberg. She was very strict. She made us do a lot of work. She made us be accountable. And one thing I remember she did, she used to call out your name before, she used to ask the question before she called out your name. So you didn't know that the question was coming to you. And I did that all the time. I'd call out the question, then I'd call out the name, so if you weren't paying attention, you'd be on the spot.
Okay. So it sounds like your career unfolded with having a desire. There was something innate about something dealing with math, not even knowing where that was going to take you, but with math. And so then you went to college.
I wanted to be an architect too, but women weren't really in that field yet.
Okay.
And I was discouraged from trying to be an architect, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And to this day.
Now, how were you discouraged though? But go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll explain that. To this day, I have a house on Cape Cod, and I built a bathroom. I had a bathroom built in the basement.
Okay.
I took graph paper and I sketched it out on the graph paper. One square was 1 foot, and then I gave it to my carpenter and I said, this is what I want. And he didn't have to do anything except follow my plan because I had it exactly fit. I went to Home Depot, I measured the size of the sink, the size of the stand-up tower, shower, and everything, and this is what I wanted, and he built the exact same thing as I made. So I wanted to be, a designer or an architect like that, but one of the reasons was my mother always told me we didn't have the money for me to go to that kind of school, and those kind of schools were really expensive.
Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. I just learned a little bit more that I knew. That's good. Okay, Rosemarie, tell me about your dreams as a child.
Growing up as a child, my mom was sick when I was a younger person. When I became 10 years old, I was like the mom for the house. My mom was in the hospital, and I would take care of my brothers. So my growing up, taking care of my brothers the way I did, I was looking at saying, well, what am I going to do when I grow up? I love this. I love taking care of people.
That's right.
So I says, well, I think when I grow up, I'm going to be a mom and take care of my children the way I take care of my brother. So that's what I did. I got married.
Thank you.
And I had my 3 children. And then as the children get older, you say, what am I going to do with my life? My kids are all grown up. They're independent. They're on their own. I mean, I used to drive my kids back and forth to school. And, I was part of their lives, and I got involved with the PTOs at the schools.
Very good.
And I became very involved in education, and I said to myself, I think I enjoy doing this too, helping other children. Back then, the money wasn't going into the school department the way I felt it was, so many of us from the Mary C. Burke School got together and we formed this strong PTO. And I'm still friends with all those girls, and most of them are still in Chelsea. And we said, we got to sit down and find out what we can do for the children in the city of Chelsea, just to make sure that they get the education that we got when we went to school. When I went to school, I took the business course, and I says, well, I'd like to work out in the workforce as a secretary or something to be involved in the public. But I came very involved in the education part of it, and that's when I said, I think it's time for me to do something in education, and I got involved with the children. And today, when I do go around the city, and some of them are still here, they said, I remember you were my lunch mother. I remember you, the parents, going up to City Hall and going to the school committee meetings and fighting for the rights of the children. And I says, well, I felt that was very important for you guys. And they thank me all the time for that, too, which makes me feel so good.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And as I listen to you both, I'm thinking, okay, so Paula, did you share with us about whether you have children? Are you married?
I've never been married.
Okay.
I really do. I know this might sound awful, but the opposite of you. I never really wanted to have children.
Really?
I guess maybe that means that I was too selfish, because I was working towards my education and I was working towards my career. So I always put my career first. I also know a lot of it had to do with my mother was sick, and I think that gave me a negative aspect of what it would be like to be a mother.
Really?
So,
I'm surprised.
yeah, my aunt helped take care of us a lot.
Yeah.
My grandmother and my aunt lived very close by in a two-family house. So when my mother was sick, I would often sleep over my grandmother's or sleep over my aunt's house. But I think I'm a little bit younger than you, and I was involved with
I'm
people.
glad she said a little bit younger.
A little.
I'm
little.
glad she said a little bit
A
younger.
little. But I think maybe it's because I went to college. I was involved with girls who were career bound. And that was different than being involved with people that had families. And I know.
Then plus the fact you did say, she grew up like an only child, where you grew up.
I had my brothers.
Yeah, and I grew up like an only child. Also, I know that most of my friends now are still single. And one of them is still working, another one got married, but she never had any children. She's a career woman. She worked for Converse in a big position. And that's what I just tended to gravitate towards. And when I was teaching school, I had a mentor who helped me, told me about the idea that the more courses you take, the more money you make as a teacher. And that's where I learned that I needed to stay